Good morning, everyone. Welcome to LisaBug Yoga. Our focus for the month is standing strength and supine stretch. We're going to also occasionally add hand weights to our practice as an option. And today we'll be focusing on external rotation of the rotator cuff. So if you've got a light hand weight that you'd like to add into today's practice, that would be great. Also, this month I'm going to do a featured pose of the week. Today's featured pose is triangle pose, Trikonosana. For those of you that join my classes online regularly, if you have a suggestion of a featured pose you'd like to see this month, send me a message on that and I'll be sure to include that. Also, I got a message from Judith this morning with a great suggestion to remind everybody, now that the temperatures have really increased, we've been upping our workouts quite a bit, that it's really good to remember to hydrate. And it's kind of interesting, but as we age, we lose some of our thirst mechanism. So our body has this built-in mechanism that when we need to take in water, we feel thirsty. As we get a little bit older, that thirst indicator diminishes. So you don't always have that little reminder, oh, I need to drink water. So be sure that you're taking in water at a regular rate, staying really hydrated through these warmer temperatures. When you're outside doing yard work, anytime, have that water bottle handy. All right, so let's start here in a mermaid position. So I'm going to come down onto my right hip. And then if you have that light hand weight, 3-pounder is what I'm going to use, have that close by to the front of your mat. So I'm going to give you a nice progression as we work into Trikonasana today to break down triangle pose, and then we'll add some work for the rotator cuff. If you feel uncomfortable in this position, prop yourself up on a little blanket with your right hip. And let's come down and extend that right arm out to the mat and lift the left arm up and take a nice side stretch over. And then use that sideways to pull yourself up and stretch the other way. And just move through a nice gentle range of motion here as you're getting started. And breathe. So one of the important things to remember about triangle or Trikonasana, that it is a side bend. So you're bending through the side of the waist. It's not a rotation leaning forward. So I want you just to see how your body feels taking this side to side. Let's do 2 more here. And then on this last one, extend all the way down, coming to your elbow, and reach this arm up to the sky, stretch it up, make sure that feels okay for your shoulder. And then make sure your shoulders are stacked, and we'll bring this left elbow down toward the waistline. And then rotate the palm to touch your belly, and rotate it back as far as you feel comfortable. So for some of us, you might just come to here, and that's your range of motion. So explore that before we add hand weights with this, and make sure that this feels okay for your body. Now, even though you're on your elbow here, I want you not to just collapse into it. So lift up, open up the chest, feel lightly weighted on that elbow. So you're going to stay here as you are, or add this light bit of weight, tucking that elbow in, rotate up. Another thing we can do when we do this rotator cuff action is to place a little hand towel between our elbow and our waist so that we have that to push into and to stay nicely braced. So that's a wonderful option with this exercise as well. And it doesn't take much weight to feel challenged in the rotator cuff. And we want to make sure we're not overdoing it so that we strain that muscle. It's just gentle strength work. And I'm moving slow. through a comfortable range of motion. Exhaling as you rotate out, inhaling to return. And let's do one more on this side. Rotate and lower down. We can release the weight to the floor. Stretch that arm up and over one more time. Reach. And then pull yourself up. Take your opposing stretch. All right, same progression on the other side. So we'll spin those legs around. Sitting in your mermaid position. On the left hip, the knees are bent about 90 degrees on each side. Left arm reaches out, gentle pressure into the fingertips, and we'll stretch and pull yourself up. Coming back this direction is a little harder because of the angle of our hip. And that's very normal. So just move your range of motion here. So some of the muscle activation that we have is that big muscle in the lower back called the QL, quadratus lumborum. It's shaped kind of like a diamond, and that's responsible primarily for side flexing the spine. So you might feel that in that right side of your lower back. Good, 2 more. And then let's take it all the way down, gently planting your elbow. Reach that arm up, stretch, and then pull your elbow right down into your waist. You have about a 90-degree bend in that elbow. Let your hand come across to touch your abdomen, and then rotate it out. So you might be a lot different on this side, depending on which is your dominant arm, or if you've had an injury. And then just kind of analyze, is it going to be okay on this side to add weight? And if so, let's go ahead and reach for it. Nice straight wrist here, and rotate up. Check to make sure you're not slumping down into that shoulder. Stay up and lifted. Engaging through your core, and you're only lightly weighted into this forearm. So your core body is stabilizing to hold yourself in this position. Excellent. Let's get about 3 more on this side. Slow, gentle range of motion. Exhaling as you rotate out. Inhaling to return. All right, release that hand weight down. Take one more stretch, up and over, reach. And use the strength of your side waist to pull yourself up, stretching the opposite direction. Pause there. And lower down. All right, let's come right onto our knees, and you're facing forward. Knees are about hips distance apart. And bring both hands across the abdomen. We'll rotate out and then across. And each time you come across, switch the forearm that's on top. Now we can add workload to this, but because of the angle of our body, we're not really getting gravity to help us with this. So we're just going to stay without the weight, but that would be something you could add as well. Mostly for range of motion. Last one. And then relax those arms by your side. We'll extend this left leg out into our gate pose position. So the hips are really level here. We want to try to make sure we don't turn the spine this way. So drive that left hip forward. Engage here through your gluteal on the left side. Make sure your shoulders are stacked over the hips. We'll reach the arms out and take a side stretch. Maybe your fingertip can find the mat. Maybe this arm can come over a little further. Then use that side waist to pull yourself up again. So it's the same movement pattern we did in our mermaid. We have a little bit more balance here now and stabilization since we're not sitting down. Kneeling, we might feel the glutes on both sides firing. And reach. And pull it up. Okay, let's take that down into your gate pose. It's similar to a side plank here, lightly weighted in your fingertips. Now, if you can't reach the mat, you can place your block right underneath your hand. And we'll pull this elbow down into the waist again and bring the arm across toward the abdomen and open out. So as we did before, you can decide whether just to do range of motion or is it okay for you to add your light hand weight? So we can reach down, get that same position, rotate up. Now, since I'm only lightly weighted in the fingertips here, I'm really using the stabilization of my entire core to keep this angle of my body. It's right at about 45 degrees. Your head should be neutral as well. So sometimes with this, I see heads start to drop and look down. So open up your throat. Keep all sides of your neck equal alignment. Good. Let's get 2 more on this side. Try not to grip the weights too tightly. Last one. And then we'll pull it back up. Release that hand weight. And take your opposing stretch. You hear that popping sound? That is the bone on bone in my left knee. Okay, let's switch sides, shall we? It doesn't hurt. It's just loud. All right, let's come into our gate on the other side. Push that right hip forward, squeeze the glute, lengthen through the spine, even squeeze this glute. So we have a nice alignment of the hips, the shoulders extend outward, and we'll side bend, extend, and pull up. So we're looking for lengthening as we're strengthening these muscles of the core, the lower back, abdominals pulled in. And again, just think about if you had a wall behind your shoulder blades, you'd just be tracing that wall. So you're keeping neutral shoulder alignment as you go from side to side. Okay, let's come on down and find a place where we can stay. So if you need your block under your fingertips, you can take it there. This arm is reaching straight up to the ceiling, and then we tuck the elbow down into the waist, rotate the hand across the abdomen, and take a little dress rehearsal before you decide to add your weight. Whenever you're ready, we're going to have to slightly come out of alignment to reach for that hand weight. So make sure you get back into that good position and rotate open. Check your head position. Make sure the shoulder isn't giving you a problem. You don't need to weight it very much at all, but that requires a lot of core stabilization here. And of course, since I teach my classes in a pretty rigorous progression, you know that you can always go back to the one we previously did, which would be your mermaid. So you can always come down and take that if this one's too strenuous. Nice job. 2 more. Keep this shoulder blade depressed so it doesn't start to hunch up. And 1. Good. Pull yourself up. Release that hand weight. And take your opposing stretch the other side. Fantastic. Lower that down. Come back to both knees. And we're just going to come into camel pose. So take your fists or your palms and place them right back on both sides of your sacrum there. And pull your shoulder blades back. Lift your heart. And we're trying to bend from this part of the spine upward rather than a lot in your lower back. So just lift your heart up and slightly open the throat. Breathing 2 more breaths. And then rise up, release, take your hands forward out in front of you and come into a little child's pose here, dropping the forehead down, stretching the arms, opening up the armpits, and breathing. And then transitioning into downward dog, you might need to turn your body at a 90-degree angle if you're facing the way I was on the mat. And then tuck those toes underneath. Lift the hips up any amount. You can bend your knees a lot to start. Really push away from your hands the way you were in down dog. And let's start to cycle our feet a little bit, pedaling them out, dropping one heel down and then the other. Taking time to really stretch through the posterior chain, down the back of the legs, the calves, the hamstrings, up and over the glutes a little bit, and even under the bottoms of the feet. And then way up on the balls of both feet, like you're stretching that first joint of your toes. And press all the way down, sinking both heels as close to the earth as you can. Lengthening those legs a little more if that feels okay. 2 breaths. Then begin to walk your feet toward your hands until you come up there toward the top of your mat. Softening through your knees, forward fold. Ragdoll pose if you like, clasping your elbows. Let everything dangle down. Move your back around a little bit. Maybe move your head. Just really let go of any tension along the spine, upper back, and into the neck. And then release the arms. Bend your knees very deeply. Start to lift the chest. Rising up into chair pose. The arms can come forward. They can draw into the heart. They can lift up nice and high. So wherever you are, I want you to think about that nice alignment of the hips down right over the feet, or you can bring the feet a little tighter together. And bring your weight into your heels. Scoop your abdominals in. Then press through those feet, dynamically rise up and extend through the fingertips. This is Urdhva Hastasana, our upward salute. From upward salute, sink back down into chair. And 3 more times. Inhale, rise. Exhale, sit. 2 more. Maybe feel a little stretch when you sit into chair in the back of the ankle. One more, reach up. And sit. Hold that chair pose just a couple more breaths. Check to make sure your knees aren't knocking in. Nice neutral alignment. And just rise up to stand. Take a nice big step back with your right foot. Turn your toe out a little bit and align your hips forward for warrior one. Nice stretch up, lengthen. Now, if arms above the head doesn't feel good, you know some options here. Goalpost is really nice. Palms at heart center is always great. And then engage this right glute just a little bit to help you open up the hip flexor. Stretch. One more breath. Drop the palms back to the heart. Step that back foot forward, back into chair pose. Sink down. Strong through the legs. So sometimes I see a chair pose that looks kind of like this, two bent over. So make sure you're lifted, your chest is facing forward, but you do have some angle with the body. Lower back is really secure and braced by firing the core. Let's step the left foot back with a slight turn out of that foot. Square your hips forward, warrior one, choose your arm position. Sometimes we get a little lazy with warrior one and we soften this back knee and kind of bend it. So really straighten it. I have a little bit of a knock knee deformity in that side, so as hard as I try to straighten it, it always looks a little bent. But I really want you to fire those muscles, your quadriceps, your glutes, your core, and pull these shoulder blades back. You can have as much bend as you like in that front knee. Make it feel challenging, but within your limitations. One more breath. Step back into your chair. Hold, drop your hips down any amount. And then we'll rise up, taking a standing camel pose. We did this on our knees. Take either your fists or your palms and gently press them back into your sacrum on either side. Pull your shoulder blades towards each other to open up through your heart. Engage your abs. And again, we're going to lift from this upper part of the heart, not arching more of our lower back. So all of this stays pretty stable. So lift the heart, extend upward. Make sure you don't let the abdominals go, so they're still bracing, still protecting the lower back. Also, it's just a gentle opening of the throat. We don't want to throw the head back and lift the chin too high. Tighten your thighs, your glutes. Legs are really strong. And rise back up. Release the hands, come into a strong mountain pose, turning your palms forward, still pull those shoulder blades apart. And then choose the leg to step back with that will turn your body to face your camera. So you're going to turn and open out whichever that leg that is. And take a pretty generous step. So if you take your arms out, your feet are going to be almost as wide as where you would wear your watch on your wrist. A little more or a little less is okay. Toes are turned out. We'll inhale to reach the arms up, stretch. Exhale, drop the right arm and just side bend over. So make sure you're not turning. Nice lateral flexion of the spine and reach that arm really long so you're stretching dynamically from the left wrist through the left foot. And come up, inhale. Exhale, take that side stretch to the other way. So it's fairly easy to side stretch without twisting if our hips are parallel and oriented to the front. As soon as we do something with our hips that's different, or our feet, then it's a little harder to keep our side bend in a good position. Let's inhale, come up, and exhale to lower the arms. So now we'll adjust the feet. So this left foot turns to be parallel. The right foot turns out. Our legs still stay straight. So now we've adjusted this rotation of our thighs a little bit, which makes our hips want to go this way. So keep pulling your hips straight ahead. Reach those arms out. And now take a side bend over to the right. You are essentially in triangle now. You can reach that arm a little further, extend and stretch, and then pull it up the other way. This is reverse triangle. So the only difference from Warrior 2 and Reverse Warrior is for those two poses, we would have this side leg bent. So for you, if you're facing the camera, that's probably your right leg. Let's do 2 more. And on this last one, we'll hold Trikonasana. Tri means 3. Tri is 3. Kona means angle. And then asana, of course, is the pose. So it's 3 angle pose here. Now what I want you to feel, and this arm doesn't have to be up, it can be at your hip. I want you to feel this top rib cage rolling back a little bit, the bottom rib cage rolling forward. And that's so that you don't drop this down. And sometimes we get really excited in this pose to go deeper. And then what we do is we start to bend over at the waist to get there. So keep pulling it up. And then we'll take this hand and bring it down to the waist and come across and open up. Do you see a progression here with our rotator cuff exercise? So maybe in Trikonasana, you're thinking, I probably shouldn't add any hand weights to this, and that's okay. Or if you want to take your weight, you're going to have to come out of alignment just for a second to pick it up. Be real careful with that, but come right back in to your good form, and we'll rotate. One thing to caution, not to push on your knee right here. If you push on your knee, that might cause your leg to lock out and a lot of pressure into your ACL ligament. You can put your hand on a chair, that's real nice. Or don't use your hand at all and really fire your core here. Let's get 3 more. And 2. One more. And very carefully, if you want, you can soften this knee a little bit, pull yourself up. Rotate both feet to face the front now. So that right foot just faced in. And then we'll very carefully fold over from the waist to release that hand weight and take a nice wide leg forward fold. So let your back release, come on down. Hands can go to your blocks, to a chair. You can place them on the outside of your legs. You can reach your fingertips out long like a downward dog position and get a great stretch through your shoulders. Two more breaths. And then bring your hands to your hips. Keep your back nice and neutral, and with the strength of your posterior chain, pull yourself right back up. And then we have another camel pose from this position with our legs nice and wide. So fists or palms. Go back, gently squeeze your buttocks, lifting from the upper rib cage. Extend, open up your heart. Make sure you have your balance here. 2 more breaths. And come right back up to neutral. Release those arms down. Slightly turn both toes out. Again, you might check the distance so that you've got about wrist width apart with your feet, if that feels okay. And we'll inhale to reach up. Exhale and side stretch to that left side. Just to check to make sure the shoulder's not rounding down. So pull it back. And inhale, reach up. Exhale, take it down, other side. Pull that shoulder back. And breathe up. Both arms float down. So we adjust the feet. So this right foot turns in. The left foot turns out, and that makes your hips want to rotate. So you've got to pull them back. So we have our legs rotated, but not our pelvis. Reach out. Side stretch. So regular triangle, the arm is facing the ceiling. Extended triangle, or Utthita Trikonasana, the arm is really reaching. And then pull it back up. Reverse triangle. And come up. It's different from revolved triangle. So I'll try to bring that into this month as well. And that's triangle with a twist. It's a little bit more challenging. And 2 more each direction. Everything from your pelvis down is really stable. It doesn't move at all. Great stretch through the lats here. So find your Trikonasana, 3-angle pose, reaching that arm up. Check to make sure your bottom rib cage is coming forward, your top rib cage is pulling back. So these muscles are active. We're not just relaxed in this pose with the upper body. We'll pull this elbow down and drape it across the abdomen. And then we rotate out. So even if you don't have a weight today with this, this is a great range of motion exercise to do with no workload. And also if you're coming back from an injury, it's great. So maybe you're staying with this, or you'll have to break form just a bit to reach down and take that hand weight, but come right back into your position and extend it up. So because of the angle of our body here, that gets gravity in a pretty good position to load this muscle, or it's a group of muscles actually for the rotator cuff. It's sometimes called the sits muscle, S-I-T-S. Good. 2 more. And last one. Very carefully pull yourself right back up. Turn both toes forward so they're parallel with the sides of your mat. Nice long spine, hinge from your hips, and very carefully fold to release your hand weight. And come down into one more wide leg stretch. And take your options with your arms, supporting on a block, reaching out like down dog, hugging your ankles. You can even reach your arms through your legs toward the floor behind you and give yourself a little pull down. Really elongate. Two more breaths. And then we'll be turning our body back again toward what we consider the top of our mat. So you can pivot that foot and then walk your body around to that edge of your mat and step back into your downward facing dog. If you need a child's pose here, that's great as well. Downward dog is considered a resting pose, but you might be giggling a little bit because sometimes it doesn't feel like a resting pose for some of us. So if it does feel like you can rest in down dog, take it. If not, it feels too much work, take your child's pose. On your next inhale, glide forward to plank pose and hold a strong, powerful plank. Now that might mean your knees need to come down. You might need to come to your forearms. We'll be here about 30 seconds. Some generous breaths in and out, either through the nose and mouth. Check to make sure the hips aren't hiking up or the belly isn't sagging down. So really strong neutral alignment. 15 seconds. If you're up off of your knees, really straighten your legs. 2 more breaths. 1 more breath. And let your knees drop if they're not already. Tuck your elbows in and take a slow chaturanga coming down until your belly is all the way down onto the mat. Reach your arms the length of your body behind you and try to lift them up any amount. Then lift your chest up, coming into a locust. You can also lift your legs up. So we're really working the spinal extensors, the erector spinae. Take a look at your head and make sure you're not lifting it up and looking forward. So tuck your chin, you're looking down towards your mat. Even though your chest is up, keep that neutral position. 2 more breaths. Maybe lift a little higher. 1 more breath. And then just tuck your hands right underneath your shoulders to press your palms to the mat, lower your legs. With nice strength through your triceps and chest, push yourself back up and back to your child's pose or maybe a cat stretch. So we just like to take a little counter pose for the lower back when we do some extension there. So our focus for this month is standing strength and supine stretch. So the rest of the class I've saved for flexibility work, and we'll be laying on our back. If you've got a yoga strap, grab that and let's come on down onto our backs. Make sure you're comfortable there, so we're going to be here for a while. If you need a little pillow behind your head to keep a neutral spine, be sure you do that as well. So once we're in a nice comfortable position, we'll take that yoga strap, or maybe you've got a belt or a necktie or a hand kitchen towel. Just place it under the ball of your right foot and extend that leg up toward the ceiling. So if we have the other knee bent with our foot flat, it gives us a little bit more range to lift this leg. So if you feel pretty flexible, you can slide this other leg down onto the floor, which slightly tips your pelvis forward anteriorly. So it gives you a little bit better stretch through the hamstring as well as the other leg hip flexor. So a nice flexion through the ankle. Our goal is to get this right leg as straight as we can. And we're holding that hamstring stretch. So for most of us, one of the tightest areas in our body. And we're just relaxing the breath, maybe using that sinking breath where we take an inhale and then a really long exhalation. Just helps our nervous system, sends a signal from our brain to our muscles, back to our brain to help us to relax. Now, holding onto your strap with your left hand, your right arm comes out to the side. We're just going to slightly bring this leg across just a couple of inches until we feel the IT band here. The outside of the hip, that tensor fascia lata. And we'll hold that IT band stretch. And then if we want to stretch through the outside of our shin, just turn your toes inward, kind of roll your foot. And that's going to put that muscle on stretch a little bit. So this isn't a twist, so I'm not bringing my hip up off the floor. I'm trying to keep my pelvis down and just the leg is coming across. If you're tight in the IT band, you should really be feeling this. Now bring that leg back to the center. Remove the yoga strap, but keep the leg up and flex and point. Flex and point. And we can stay on the ground with our shoulders and head, or we can lift the fingertips toward the foot and crunch and lower. Flex as you come up, lower as you come down. You can gently place the fingertips behind the head, crunch, and lower. Exhale. 5. Really flex that ankle, working the shin muscle. 3, 2, and 1. And then set that right foot down to the mat. All right, let's bring the left leg up. Ball of the foot with the strap, that will help us get the flexion in our ankle. Right leg can stay bent, foot on the floor. We can slide it out. And my hip flexor really needs this today, so I'm going to go for the long extended version. You can also do this with your hips up on a block, which gives you a nice stretch for this extended leg hip flexor, the right leg. All right, let's find our length here on that left hamstring. For just a second, I felt my muscle starting to shake, and that's always a little warning sign that I need to take a break on it because my muscles are trying to fight the stretch and contract. So that if that happens for you, just back off a little bit and then very slowly come back in. Take your time. And then really relaxing everything. At the same time, I like to keep some tension in this leg. So you can pull your toes up, you can tighten this quadricep and glute. So it's almost as if you're standing on your right foot with really good form. Then we'll hold that strap with just the right hand. Take your left arm out to the side slightly to counterbalance your body. Then just a little bit, bring that left leg across toward your right side body. IT band stretch. Then we can turn the foot in. Ooh, yes. That'll get the outside of your lower leg, your calf, and your tibialis anterior just a little bit, depending on how your foot is turned. And make sure you're breathing. So this really helps if we have some signs of IT band syndrome, which is tightness in that IT band. If you're an avid cyclist, sometimes that can be a problem, or even runner or hiker, we can have some problems with tight IT band. Even if we don't do those things, if we're a little sedentary, we can experience tight IT bands. So this is great for everybody to stretch. Okay, let's bring that foot back to the neutral position. Release your yoga strap, but keep the leg up of your own accord and flex and point. Now, if it feels better for you to bend this knee a little bit, this is okay. But if our goal is to stretch the hamstring here, try to keep the leg as straight as you can, even if it's down here a little bit lower, if that's what your range of motion is. So it doesn't have to be all the way up at 90 degrees. Now we can add a little bit of core work. So arms are lifted, flex, and point. Up and down. Exhale, inhale. Hands can support the back of the head. Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bend that knee, set your foot to the floor. Then bend both knees about hips distance apart with the feet and with the knees. Both arms are out or in goalpost, and we'll do some windshield wipers. So you're going to drop both knees over to the right side until your left hip lifts and you feel a little stretch across the top of your left thigh, and then come to the other side. Now, if you're pretty flexible in your quads, you might not feel this stretch very much, but I am really tight, so I definitely feel the top of that leg and the hip flexor stretching when I move from side to side. This is also just a little bit of a twist because the hip is lifting, so some nice rotation. Now, the next time you drop your knees to the right side, I want you to stay there. If you need a little bit more stretch, this right foot can come up across the outside of your left thigh to give yourself a little bit of weight, only if that feels okay. Then you can remain here quiet in your stretch, or we can add a little bit of core work. So the arms can reach up toward the ceiling or fingertips behind your head, and we're going to take the chest straight up. So our knees are off to our right, but our abdominal crunch is coming right up to the ceiling. So we're effectively working a little bit through that left side of our rectus abdominis and into the anterior oblique there. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. If If the ankle is across the thigh, you'll remove it. Set your feet hips distance apart. Pull those knees back up. Go back and forth twice, just to loosen everything back up again. And then when you come to that left side, that's where we're staying. You have the option to bring your left ankle up over the right thigh. For me, my knee doesn't like that one on this side, so I'm going to keep my legs open. You can stay here and relax, or we add our abdominal work. Exhale, coming up and down. Try to keep your shoulders right squared with the ceiling as you come up. So you're feeling it in that right side of the core. Even if these are small lifts, they're effective to work the muscle. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Uncross the ankle if you have it crossed, and then we'll go back and forth twice. And then bring those knees directly up. Walk your feet together until the soles of your feet touch one another, opening your knees out into Supta Baddha Konasana. So Supta means supine. So we're laying on our back. Baddha is bound. Kona, we heard today in Trikonosana, means angle. And asana is pose. So this is our reclined or supine bound angle pose. So we're allowing the hips to open, the inner thighs to release. And you can remain as you are, or if you'd like to add your core work one more time, fingertips can either reach up as we lift, or you can support the back of your head. Exhale, inhale. If you're supporting on the back of your head, try not to pull your elbows forward and pull on your head. So keep those elbows out. Slight bit of pressure into both feet, so you're activating your inner thighs. Last 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relax down, bring your arms either by your side or maybe to goalpost position. You can also place them across your abdomen. If this feels uncomfortable for you in any way, you can lengthen your legs out, coming into traditional Shavasana, or you can even draw your knees together with your knees bent. And just close your eyes, come inside to your body, inside to your mind. And just relax everything from head to toe. And bringing your awareness to your breath, allow your belly to float up on the inhalation and sink down on the exhalation. And just pause for a moment, reflecting on your practice this morning. And give yourself some positive self-talk for a great job. for first prioritizing this in your day. Whether you're live with me now or later on YouTube, you've made a wonderful effort for yourself today. So give yourself a little congratulations. Reflecting on your practice, maybe thinking about something you discovered about yourself or learned today that you hadn't learned before. So you can retain that as you move forward and practice on your own, or as you translate those things into your everyday life. If you need more time here in quiet and meditation, feel free to remain as you are. Or we'll prepare to come up to a seated position. Take your time, go slow. If your knees are still open, close them in. You can hug knees into your chest or roll over onto one side as you prepare to sit up. As we come back to our cross-leg pose here, hips are nice and even. We'll take one more side stretch each direction, where we began our practice when we started with mermaid. Extend that right arm and stretch over. Pull the left shoulder back. Open up the chest and the heart. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, lowering down. Stretch. Rotate that shoulder blade back. And our final breath, we press the palms together. Pull the thumbs into the heart as we pause to celebrate our hard work today and our dedication to the health of our body and our mind. And the light and joy that resides within me are the